We hand young people a script full of inspiration. We tell them to follow their passions, chart their own course, and think differently. Yet the moment they try to do exactly that, the adults in the room panic. That is because the freedom society offers is heavily curated. We present life as a menu of safe, prestigious options: law, medicine, finance, consulting. Selecting one of these approved roles feels like making a choice, but you are actually just ordering from a list someone else wrote. If you decide to step entirely away from that menu, the cultural applause abruptly stops. The exact same people who encouraged you to dream big will suddenly warn you about ruining your future, about falling behind and ending up in the gutter. This reveals a harsh, mechanical truth. The primary barrier preventing people from inventing their own lives is rarely a lack of talent or a genuine fear of professional failure. It is the sheer, paralyzing terror of social disapproval. True moral courage is completely stripped of public glory. It requires you to look like an objective failure to the exact people who love you the most. To escape this trap, you first need what the author Lara Galinsky calls moral imagination. This is the specific cognitive ability to look at the approved menu, realize your life is missing, and envision a new alternative. But imagination is cheap. Acting on it requires moral courage, which operates entirely differently than physical bravery. If you run into a burning building, your community cheers for you. If you exercise moral courage, your community recoils and actively isolates you. Look at this grid. Most social life relies on mutual reassurance. People maintain identities moving in lockstep on a conventional conveyor belt of achievement. Every node confirms the surrounding nodes. Step off and you break the illusion, introducing a variable the system cannot process. Your peers and family do not panic because they genuinely believe your new path is doomed. They panic because your sudden freedom exposes their conformity as a choice they made, rather than a natural law they had to follow. The resulting friction is highly intentional, an invisible defense mechanism deployed by the system to crush individual authenticity. To police the boundaries of this conveyor belt, society weaponizes specific language. The most effective tool in its arsenal is the accusation that you are being self-indulgent. Notice the extreme hypocrisy in how we label behavior. If a 22-year-old works 80 hours a week at a hedge fund solely to hoard wealth, they are celebrated as driven and ambitious. If that same person takes a year to study philosophy or travel, they are immediately attacked as being self-indulgent. The only defense against this linguistic trap is a psychological break, a process the academic Terry Castle describes as symbolic self-orphaning. Becoming a fully formed adult requires severing the contract of absolute obedience to your parents. You must actively revoke their authority over your success. Causing deep disappointment in your parents feels like a betrayal, but it is a mandatory, structural growing pain. You cannot build an independent identity while remaining safely secured inside someone else's expectations. When the people around you beg you to be practical, they are usually just asking you to protect their worldview. Authentic adulthood requires you to survive the total withdrawal of their approval. Leaving the track guarantees specific, unromantic consequences. You will lose your traditional status markers. You will endure the pity of former classmates. You will operate entirely without institutional validation. And you still have to pay rent. Inventing your own life does not repeal the laws of economics. You need money to survive, which dictates that you will have to make material concessions to reality. There are two different ways to navigate constraints: compromise versus capitulation. Compromise forces you to bend to economic pressures while fiercely protecting your core identity. Capitulation requires melting down your authentic self to fit a pre-made mold, leaving nothing inside. You cannot avoid pain. You can only choose the source of it. You must either endure the temporary, sharp sting of disappointing others, or you will suffer the permanent, quiet tragedy of disappointing yourself. When you exercise moral courage, you will inevitably look like a failure, because you are deliberately failing the test society assigned to you. A successful life is not one that draws applause from a crowd. It is simply a life you actually consented to live.